I first discovered Mortal Kombat 2 about a decade after it had come out. It was not something I had grown up with. It was not something that I had any nostalgia for. It was not something that I knew anything about. It was simply a great video game made a long, long time ago that I picked up, played, and absolutely fell in love with. Mortal Kombat 2, even today, remains my favorite fighting game on Super Nintendo. I love basically everything about it. I love its dark fantasy aesthetic. I love its character roster. I love the move sets. I love the fatalities, and I even have a soft spot for the lore, the story, the history of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was the very first video game franchise I went online for to learn more about, because some aspects of the lore kind of eluded me. Especially since you can't, so much of it is hidden behind these arcade endings, and the game is very, very hard to complete. I never beat this as a kid, and even today I struggled greatly beating Kintaro and getting to the getting all the way to the top of the tower to defeat Shao Kahn. It's a very, very hard video game, and in some respects, I think that's probably its greatest weakness, because the AI isn't great. It sort of takes advantage of you. It does things that like the player doesn't do. It's not very well balanced. It is very noticeable, and it's kind of hard to get into. Like, it is something. It's very, very irritable to play through this game in the single player campaign. But when you do learn to get through it, when you do find a character that you like and learn to take advantage of the AI and try your best to get to the top and beat the tower, beat the game, and get that sweet arcade experience. It's very, very rewarding. It's very memorable, very iconic, and even today I'll pop it in and play it and give it a whirl. And I don't always do it, but whenever I do, it's a very, very, very satisfying experience. But I think the meat of the game, the real core of it, is knowing a lot of people who are also into the game, and going head to head against them in multiplayer, because everyone is a little bit different. It's the typical fighting game formula in which like everyone has their main, everyone has like their special moves that they like, everyone has their own favorite fatality that they want to do on you, and when you have a group of people, right, who are all playing the game and all growing and evolving and like learning to take advantage of other people's strategies, there are very, very few gaming experiences like it. This is one of the only video games I've ever played in my life that I've ever played semi-competitively. I don't want to say like, I suppose like casually competitively is the way to put it, because it's not like I was like competing in tournaments or anything like that. I was just playing this game with a bunch of people I knew, this game I had found, hidden in a house somewhere. It had apparently been there for like, just sitting there for a decade. Popping that sucker in and having friends over to experience this weird archaic arcade experience. And it was a great memory. Like, that is probably one of my favorite childhood memories, is just discovering this game and really, really, really getting into it. It was a phenomenal experience, and still is today. It still holds up as one of my favorite Mortal Kombat titles. I think it's second in my mind only to Mortal Kombat 9, mostly because of like just how much that game really solidified, really cemented the playing, really. That game was such a great reboot of the entire original Mortal Kombat trilogy. It's hard not to put 9 at like the absolute tippity top of like the Mortal Kombat franchise, but 2 is a strong second contender in my mind. I still love this game. I think it's like a near perfect fighting game. Some rough edges aside, AI, maybe like some of these secret characters, or maybe like the game could be a bit more balanced, right? It does feel like very, very unbalanced. I can't imagine this game had a competitive fighting scene back in the day, but that doesn't mean the game is bad. Like, that's always the Street Fighter argument, is that, like, Street Fighter is better because it's more competitively viable. But at the end of the day, like, I think Mortal Kombat is still a polished, fun-to-play, engaging, unique fighting game franchise. One that stands just as tall as its Japanese contemporaries. I like Mortal Kombat just as much as more than a lot of Japanese video game franchises. I can't really name a whole lot of Western video game franchises that I like as much as the Japanese, let alone more. And I think that the fact that Mortal Kombat 2 reached these heights really just goes to show you just how brilliant this IP is, just how much fun this game is, just how well it stood the test of time. Because I still enjoy this game. I respect it a lot. I love it a lot. I acknowledge it as being one of the best in the series, and I would recommend it to absolutely anyone. Like, Mortal Kombat 2 is absolutely a Nintendo classic.